Oh, hello there. Welcome once again to DK Reads a Freakin' Book. Today, Chapter 12 of I, Jedi by Michael Stackpole. Let's see what Kieran Halcyon. Let's see what that old boy is up to. The next morning, I found Master Skywalker waiting for me in my chamber after I finished my run. Dripping with sweat, my chest heaving with exertion, I bowed to him, then remained hunched over, with my hands resting on my knees. It is an honor, Master. Cloaked in black, he nodded to me. You can tap into the Force to revitalize yourself, you know. I slowly straightened up and smiled. I know, but I choose not to. The fatigue and little aches and pains feel good. They remind me I'm human and mortal, and I think that is a good thing right now. Certainly not a bad one. His right hand came out from beneath his cloak. Hovering above his outstretched palm, I saw a milky jade crystal block. It rotated slowly there in the air and glowed with an eternal light that gave Luke's flesh a nasty green color to it. You remember what this is? A Jedi holocron. It contains histories and wisdom and information about the Jedi, collected down through the years. I twisted my torso left and right to stretch some of the muscles in my back. Tion has been using it to research Jedi history. She said the gatekeeper is an alien Jedi named Bodo Baas. Exactly right. Luke cupped his hands and touched the floating cube with his fingertips. The crystal flared white for a moment, then the hologram of a hunched insectoid creature with a bulbous carapace congealed above it like a green ghost. The creature oriented itself towards Luke. Greetings, Jedi, it intoned. I am Bodo Baas, the gatekeeper of the holocron. Do you have a question for me? Luke looked through the hologram at me. A model of Bodo Baas's cognitive network functions as a search, recovery, and storage allocation program. There is quite a bit of information stored here. I spent some time researching last evening to see if what you did the other day has been done before. Has it? The Jedi Master smiled. It has. In fact, one of the first manifestations of Jedi skill showed to me by Obi-Wan Kenobi was very similar. Gatekeeper, explain the power classified as Alter Mind to Kieran Halcyon. The gatekeeper turned toward me. Its black compound eyes fixed me with a stare. Jedi skills in the Force are rooted in 3 areas. Control is internal. It is the Jedi's ability to recognize the Force in himself and to use it to his benefit. Sense involves the next step, in which the Jedi recognizes the Force in the universe outside herself. Here, she feels the Force and is able to draw upon it for information about the world around her. Through it, she is connected to the rest of the universe. Alter is the third and most difficult area to master, for it involves the student's ability to modify the Force and redistribute the energies. Through these skills, the Jedi can influence the universe, making changes as needed to accomplish its goals. Oh, no mention of midi-chlorians, I see. Well, that's disappointing, right? The power known as Alter Mind bridges all these skill areas. Through it, a Jedi can project her perception of reality into the mind of another, or an illusion or conclusion that she needs the other to hold as true. This is a most magnificent and useful power, but it also is one fraught with danger. Bending the will of another for a benign purpose can be noble and good. The dark side lurks nearby in this power, so it should be used with caution. I blinked my eyes. Well, that's very interesting. Luke nodded. When confronted by a stormtrooper looking for droids back on Tatooine, Obi-Wan used this power to convince the stormtrooper that our droids were not the ones he was looking for. I remember having a stormtrooper searching for me during my escape from Lusankia. I was doing all I could to make myself unseen, and he didn't see me. The Jedi Master's eyes narrowed for a moment. You think you unconsciously tapped this power before you began training? I guess so. Is that bad? No, actually, it is good. Explain some things. Luke nodded towards Bodo Baas's image. As the gatekeeper indicated, it's a very powerful Force ability. Some individuals show a certain aptitude for areas of Jedi power. They have an inborn talent for it. It could be your talent falls into this area. Could be. It's good I have aptitude in something, because I am useless when it comes to telekinesis. Then again, I'm not certain how adept I am at influencing minds. I remember trying to influence a stormtrooper on Thifera with disastrous results. Just because you have a talent for it doesn't mean you'll always succeed. Luke grinned somewhat sheepishly. When I visited Jabba the Hutt's den, I managed to use it on his Twi'lek aide to get myself an audience. My attempt to use it on Jabba failed right after that. The Hutt may have been stronger-willed, and a Hutt's thought patterns are a bit further from human than those of the Twi'lek. Success was not guaranteed for me either. Let's reference every time the Force has ever been used in the movies. I nodded. I should also take the caution about the dark side to heart as well. Yes, definitely. Luke released the holocron and the gatekeeper evaporated. The dark side is seductive for those who want too much too fast. I was concerned at how easily you managed to make us all see what you wanted us to see, which is why I consulted the holocron about your ability. I think you should be very careful about how you employ it. I would like you to team up with another student and try to alter their perception of color, or simple things that don't matter, to test your limits. Of course, I want you only to work with that student's permission and full knowledge. Got it, I smiled. However, the temptation to make Gantoris think he's already dressed when he isn't does exist. Luke laughed lightly for a moment, then withdrew the holocron from sight. You still think like a pilot. Maybe this room wasn't a good idea after all. Please don't do that to Gantoris. Jedi powers are not for playing pranks. Later on, testing yourselves against each other will hone your skills, but we have to work together at it. Your rivalry with Gantoris concerns me. I held my hands up. Master, I don't consider Gantoris a rival. I don't particularly like him. He reminds me of a pilot I knew when I first joined Rogue Squadron. Bror Jace and I didn't get along at first, but we grew to understand each other. We never became good friends, but we managed to work together and managed to liberate his homeworld from Izard. The Jedi Master lowered his head for a moment. Gantoris has had a lot of hardships in his life. He managed to keep the people of Eol Shah alive in a very difficult place. We've moved his colony to Dantooine and relieved him of his responsibility for them. Dantooine is where Leia says the hidden rebel base is when they're about to test the Death Star for the first time. And then old Peter Cushing says, "We will deal with your rebel friends." So good. Despite that, he pushes himself and holds himself to the strict level of discipline that kept him alive on Eol Shah. Here he sees you pushing yourself harder than he does, and your work pays off with surprising successes. He cannot beat you physically. While you failed to raise the rock, you exhibited a power for which he has no aptitude and can't understand. You're saying he is having trouble enjoying the freedom he now has because it's new to him. All the measures for his conduct he would have used before have no value here, so he has seized upon me as a scale against which to measure himself. I shook my head. He's worse off than I would have thought. Maybe you can do things to help him. I felt the cold draft seep in through my sweaty tunic. I can try. You should do. If he lets me, I will do what I can. But if he's not receptive, my efforts won't work. I appreciate what you will do. The Jedi Master nodded beyond me toward the communal refresher station. Go get cleaned up and get some food. It'll be a busy day for everyone. If things work the way I intend, more will learn what you have learned, and we can move into the next stage of development for Jedi Knights. In the several days that followed our conversation, a variety of things became readily apparent to me. The first was that my ability to feel the Force followed a simple pattern. When the pressure was on, I could touch it and use it. When just practicing, I found it elusive. I did manage to make Nebula orchid blossoms change colors for Karana T, and let Tion see what she would look like if she changed her hair color, but even those simple efforts tired me. Master Skywalker found this problem more alarming than I did. I think I was able to put it into perspective because of my training for Corpsec. All recruits were taught how to handle a variety of blasters. We had it drilled into us over and over again. The only time we should draw a blaster and point it at someone was if we fully intended to use it or were willing to use it. We were told that to use methods that escalated the tension in a situation was a bad thing, which meant my default mode was to hold back. Only when I had to succeed would I cut loose. That being said, I was able to access the Force more than I had before. Luke was right. Tapping into the Force could refresh me after a long run. It could sharpen me up when I was feeling drowsy. It could convince my body that I really didn't need to eat yet, and could dull the aches and pains of life. The most faint trickle of Force energy was enough to accomplish these simple things, and, not needing the vast power I had previously, I didn't draw on it. I know Master Skywalker wanted all of us to feel comfortable in the Force, and to progress at our own rates in finding out how we would use the Force, but I wanted a bit more discipline in our training. We had no baseline against which to measure ourselves. In many ways, Gantorus' problem was one we all shared. Progress was difficult to determine, and with a more organized approach, we could have tried to duplicate previous efforts and learned how to actually do them again. I don't think it helped that Luke had trained with 2 teachers under extreme conditions. He presented us with the lessons Yoda and Obi-Wan had taught, but they weren't always directly on point for what we needed at the moment. Tion helped a lot, offering other examples from the holocron, but there were times when Luke had a difficulty getting his message across. One night, in the deepest of true night, Master Skywalker summoned us all without a word. Wearing only a hooded cloak, I joined the rest of my comrades and padded along silently in their wake. Far ahead of me, leading the way with a dim glow lamp, Master Skywalker conducted us through the great temple and down a tunnel I had never previously noticed. The dusty stones leashed warmth from my feet, and the tiny wisps of cool air that sliced through the gap in my cloak tightened my flesh. Down and down we walked, deep into the bowels of the moon. The steps were worn, but not slick. Somehow I got the impression that this pathway predated even the temple itself. Eventually our descent ended, and I sensed Tion's closeness a second before I bumped into her. Past her shoulder, I could see the circle of light playing up against what appeared to be a solid stone wall, but a hint of steam and a whiff of sulfur suggested something more lay beyond it. Luke praised Gantorus and Cam for voicing their suspicions that the trail had not ended. Then he worked some sort of a switch that slid a panel of stone aside. The resulting hole swallowed the light from his lamp. Our line began to move again, and as the trail curved to the left, the scent of sulfur grew. With it came a feeling of humidity and heat. Condensation slicked the stones on the pathway. I came into the underground grotto last of all, and found a place with my back to the tunnel, facing Luke across the circle. His glow lamp played over the surface of a bubbling mineral spring. Steam coursed over the water and washed up to tease us with warm caresses. The random staccato of bursting bubbles filled the silence, and the acrid air began to burn the back of my throat. Beneath the glow lamp's light, the water appeared to be an inviting blue, which contrasted easily with the white mineral crusts on the visible rocks and edges of the pool. "This is our destination," Luke intoned solemnly. He snapped off the glow lamp, plunging us into darkness. A couple of the students gasped, but I'd sort of expected him to do that. Whatever he intended for us in this place, something mechanical like the glow lamp seemed unlikely to be part of it. After a time, distant starlight poured through a crevice in the stone ceiling above us, allowing us to perceive shapes and the wavering, rippled reflections of stars in the pool's bubble-racked mirror. The algae in the pool gave off a dim glow itself, outlining the edge of the pool, but doing nothing to dispel the black murk of its depths. Luke's voice filled the grotto. "This is an exercise to help you concentrate and attune yourself to the Force. The water is a perfect temperature. You will float, you will drift, you will reach out and touch the rest of the universe." And as the last of his words echoed through the cave, the water rippled outward from where he had been standing, indicating that he had somehow silently slipped into the water. Without waiting for more of an invitation, I shed my robe and eased myself into the pool. The water at first seemed scaldingly hot, but I knew that was only because I had been cold once I stripped out of my robe. I sank myself gingerly, up to my waist, then released the pool's edge and sank beneath the surface. The water washed the last of the cold from my hair and goatee, while bubbles marched up through the hair on my chest. I broke the surface again, and shook my head to clear water from my eyes. The pool eased aches and pains easily, with the heat pouring in through my flesh to warm muscle and bone. I stretched my arms out and brought my legs up, doing my best to relax so I could float there. Tipping my head back, I looked up at the stars and idly wondered how many of them I had visited in my lifetime. I heard the occasional splash and whispered apology as one apprentice floated into another. With the warmth of the water and the way it held us up, it was very easy to forget our physical bodies. I recall Luke remarking that Yoda had told him we are all luminous creatures, not crude conglomerations of flesh and bone. Here in the grotto pool, warm and isolated in the dark, forgetting our physical selves became more easy than ever before. And absent contact with our physical selves, we are left feeling the force within us. Luke's voice again broke the silence. There is no emotion, there is peace. There is no ignorance, there is knowledge. There is no passion, there is serenity. There is no death, there is the Force. He spoke the words of the Jedi Code with such power and solemnity, I found myself whispering them along with him. My voice joined that of the other students until our declarations filled the grotto, binding us together. Master Skywalker urged us to use the water and the warmth to free us so we could really feel the Force. I lay back, could hear the echoes of my heartbeat pounding in my ears. I concentrated on it, knowing it was a sign of life. I let my heartbeat meld with the rhythms of the Force and felt the sizzle of the Force soaking into me. I heard Luke saying more, but the words lost their meaning in what I was seeing through the Force. Instead of hearing every syllable, stringing them together, then translating sounds into concepts, through the Force I saw his intent create eddies and currents. He herded our attention to the stars above us, then redirected us back down and into the pool. I rolled over and floated vertically, staring down into the pool. The sky's reflection sank beneath the rippling surface and took on depth. The sliver of sky expanded as if the rocks above us had become transparent steel. As Luke asked, "Can you see it?" the pool was gone, and I found myself floating in the limitless depths of space. With my mind, I reached out and grafted my thoughts to those of the Jedi Master. I clung to his energy as he soared us through various solar systems. Nebulas gave birth to stars as we flew past, and suns went nova, consuming whole planetary systems. Worlds flashed past, some which I recognized, others I did not. We visited systems where imperial warlords battled each other for supremacy, and planets where refugees sought new lives. On our journey, I caught a flicker of something I recognized. I wanted to linger for a second while I identified the feather-light brush of consciousness against mine. The second it took me to make contact proved too long, because even as I knew I felt Mirax's presence, Luke had torn me away from her. I spun around, trying to find her again, but I could not. In her place, I sensed malevolence and danger. First it came from where I had felt Mirax, then it sank deep into the moon and focused itself beneath us. I knew what I had felt had been one danger, and what I was feeling now was part of a warning from Master Skywalker about another. He'd felt another menace, one closer and more immediate. Somewhere, deep inside the moon's crust, searingly hot gases had been released and were jetting their way upward. They would bubble up and into the pool through the same cracks that allowed the water to fill the basin. In a heartbeat or three, the water would be flooded with hot gases, roasting us alive. I fought panic and would not have made it, but for two things. Above the splashing of others striking for the side of the pool, Master Skywalker's voice rose. A Jedi feels no heat or cold. A Jedi can extinguish pain. Strengthen yourselves within the Force. The calm strength in his words banished my fear and allowed me to concentrate. The second thing was a choked gasp from Tion. She had lunged for the side of the pool, but her slender fingers had failed to hang on. She sank abruptly and came back up, sputtering. She coughed hard and noisily sucked in air. Then I realized she would never get clear. In the lichen's light reflected by her pearly eyes, I saw that she knew she would die. But I refused to let her die. The frustration, pain, and sorrow that had tortured me when my father died in my arms became transformed into a determination that Tion would not die here. I knew I had it within me, using the Force to prevent her death. I opened myself to the Force, adamant that I would do whatever I needed to do, even dying to save her. The Force flooded into me as the superheated gases hit the pool. I felt the heat hit my feet first, expected the Force to channel it around me. Instead, the heat poured up through me. The Force insulated me from its destructive potential, then seemed to digest it into energy I could use. Without thinking, I gestured toward Tion with my cupped right hand and raised it, as if riding a repulsor lift couch. The silver-haired apprentice rose from the water and drifted to one side. I set her down gently as I could, She dropped to one knee and coughed again, with her silvery hair flowing down like a curtain between us. I turned about to see if there was anyone else who needed help, but the roiling surface of the water had reverted to a more placid state, and everyone else appeared to be fine. I sensed no pain, just surprise and gratitude and confidence. A smile blossomed on my face as I realized that I, too, had survived a lethal challenge by using the Force. Enough for tonight. I heard the splash as Luke pulled himself up out of the pool. Think about what you've learned. Once again, I found that when it was necessary, I was able to use the Force. Lifting Tion clear of danger surprised me, causing me to assume that the energy I had absorbed needed to be expended in some way. I'd used it to power telekinesis, something I had shown no talent for in the past. It was nice to know that with an energy boost, I could do telekinesis. But without one, it would still be hopeless. That didn't matter, though. Tion was safe, and I was plenty pleased with that. I swam to the side of the pool and pulled myself from the water. The cooler air immediately raked cold claws over me, puckering my flesh. I looked around for my robe, then found it drifting through the air toward me. I pulled it on and nodded my thanks to Luke. The Jedi Master watched me cautiously, his blue eyes intense, even in the dim light. Do you know what you did there? As nearly as I can tell, the Force allowed me to serve as a conduit for the heat. Very good. There is another Jedi power that manifests with the absorption and dissipation of energy. My father had skill in it. He could absorb or deflect a blaster bolt without harm. Luke's voice became colder. He even managed to do telekinetic tricks with the energy he pulled in. I don't like the sound of that, Master. I opened my hands toward him. I just knew Tion would die if I did nothing. Lifting her from the water seemed the most direct method for saving her. I did not think. I just acted. I know, and that's very good. The Force is more heart than brain. I did not mean what I said to sound like criticism. His voice softened a bit. It's just that doing anything with haste can lead to impatience, and that invites the dark side. You'd be better off to let the power bleed back away into the galaxy through the Force. If you are going to employ it the way you did, avoid haste so you avoid problems. Yes, Master. Luke approached and slapped me on the shoulder. You did well. Cantoris did well and saved Dorsk 81 in the process. And the others also survived this unexpected challenge. This is a good sign for our future. I'm sure you're right, Master, I found myself saying, but the chill creeping into my feet as we climbed back toward the temple left me wondering if another disaster lurked to rip us apart. End of chapter 12. Wow! What a great chapter! In all honesty, I have no memory of that taking place. I was really into it as I was reading it because some of these things I remember as I read, but I couldn't remember where that was going. So it was really fun to, I guess, re-experience that, but really it was like experiencing it for the first time again. So that was cool. So we've learned that Corran can absorb energy and then use it as output for the Force to do things like telekinesis, which he was having trouble with before. So there you go. Kind of a fun twist on that. And yeah, that's all I have for this time. Thank you for listening. And I hope to be back next week with the next one. As always, may the Force be with you. Good night.